You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, and welcome again to the Monster Sci-Fi Show. I am your host, The Monster, back with...
Hey, it's me, Mr. G, and we finally
that.
got our schedules together again.
Look at this. Look at us. Back together again. Together again.
Really? We're going to do the Muppet song? Da-da-da-da-da, together again. You're my dad. Da-da-da. God, I love the Muppets. I can't.
Not at this moment.
No.
You don't love them that much.
Together. It's not even from. It's from the other movie. It's not from the Muppet movie, which I love so much. It's from the Great Muppet Caper, I think.
Is it?
I think so.
That doesn't make a difference. Because we're not talking about the fucking Muppets. We're talking about Masters of the Universe.
Revelation.
We didn't plan that out at all.
No, we didn't.
But
Such a hellstorm.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Because first off, I saw this throughout Friday because I had to work, but I finished on late Friday night. And I texted you saying, I really like this. And then you're like, it's on my list. So I'm like, fine.
You didn't say you liked it. You were just watching it, like it for what it is.
No, because I didn't want to give anything out.
Right. Okay. You didn't. Okay.
Right,
So
but-
you deliberately didn't tell me. How you
Right.
felt.
But then you said, it's low on my list. And when I see it, I'll see it, whatever. So I was surprised when you saw this.
Well, a friend of mine came over and she's like, "What do you want to watch now?" I'm like, on the off chance you might be interested in this, Masters of the Universe is showing new episodes, and it's like the 5th incantation of it. But if you're curious, and I said Sarah Michelle Gellar is voicing the name of the character of Tila, which I'd heard through the grapevine was the star of the show for some reason. I didn't know, but I just heard it through the grapevine. If you're interested, and we watched the first episode, and we were like, all right.
yeah.
That was not what let's get another one. Mm-hmm. And then by the third one, we're like, oh, we got to watch this.
right. You're already in this that I'm like, you might as well just finish it. They're not that long, but they're bingeable. Like, if all 10 came out, I would have watched all 10.
I know, because they're only like 23 minutes each, 24 minutes each, and there's only 5 of them. And the thing is that I was surprised with the writing on it.
Yeah. So before we get started, there are going to be spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, then by all means.
And there's a controversy about it that I truly, personally cannot understand.
Right.
But again, and I did grow up with the Filmation series. I didn't buy any Masters of the Universe figures. I will admit that.
Right. Same thing with me. I have no interest
But
in the figures.
I kept it on my radar.
Yeah.
I watched some of the cartoons. We all had a crush on Tila. Not a secret to anyone.
Or Sorceress or Evil Lynn.
Evil Lynn. We all had like,
depending on which version.
Mom, are you there? Okay.
Come on, lotion.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I mean,
but I know.
so I didn't ever, but I knew about it.
Right.
And again, I knew that they try to come out with a different toy series every few years.
Right.
So,
And even then, that still didn't work.
right, still don't have anything.
But now, after watching Revelations, and we talked about, like, is this something that we would be interested in buying? And we said,
Yeah, sure.
we would.
FEMA figures first, and then
Of course.
maybe-
I mean, if you're into He-Man, I'm not knocking it, but, that doesn't do it for me.
I mean, I was really surprised. Like in the second episode, I'm like, oh my God, did Evil Lynn fucking take off her helmet?
She has hair.
She has hair, right? Exactly.
And it's white hair. I'm like, well, that's what happens. Like, if you don't get enough vitamin D and, like the COVID, that's world suffering. But still, Evil Lynn has gorgeous white hair.
And then we're doing a spoiler alert. Someone passes away. Someone major passes away.
Twice.
She takes,
yeah.
She takes her helmet off and
Yeah.
says, you were brave, you were this, you were adventurous, you were a fool. But here's my helmet.
Yeah.
And then she walks around the entire episode without her helmet. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. Exactly.
For me, this show was take it seriously. This is a franchise now that you've had in your periphery. We can do good stories.
Right.
And we can do stories with consequence, with meaning. But the thing is that as the controversy rose, after I saw it, I knew it was dwelling in the wings, but I had no idea it was such a terrible shitstorm.
And that's exactly what we're going into. Like, yeah, how do these people know ahead of time that this is going to be a thing? Because people are just saying, this is not He-Man because this is bait and switch. Tila is the one who's going to be running the show.
Well, so for the first 5 episodes.
Right.
But it's not that completely.
Right. And it's not necessarily like a Tila show. It is more about, as Kevin Smith talked about, this is the Masters of the Universe. Not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, just Masters of the Universe, meaning that all the other players, because the major thing that happened in episode 1 is that the 2 primary characters are gone. So all
Just say it, because
it's He-Man and Skeletor are done in episode 1.
But it is the most amazing thing, that they made that decision, and then they just let it go through the universe,
right?
Which was the funniest thing to me. Like, oh no, and like the Queen knows, but the Queen knows about the dual identity,
right?
Which was so funny to me because like Tila didn't know, Man at Arms knew, the Queen knew,
right? The dad
didn't know, and Tila didn't know.
Yeah.
And it was fun to watch this, and I'm going to say it's a multiverse.
Yeah.
Just to make it easier. But in this universe, just like you knew, because it opens on the past artwork from the show, the ones you're familiar with.
Right.
And that's how it is. And then we go to this different animation kind of storytelling, which is, okay, it's from that, based on that, but now we're in this universe.
More updated. I love like the logo for He-Man. It's just kind of more of an H design rather than that square, I don't know how you call that design.
Whatever it is.
It just looks better.
But it
tweaks.
It was amazing to me that, okay, so we've killed He-Man, and so they were killed in this terrible incident, an accident that took place at Castle Grayskull, whatever, which is also, they opened up that universe. It was like, it's not Castle Grayskull, it's the stuff that's underneath it. That's
right.
I'm like, oh my God, you're going into the mythology, the actual mythology from the mini comics that no one fucking read.
Right.
And you're actually respecting that and bringing it forward, which, But again, I just loved when oh no, He-Man's dead. Like, the Queen's like, oh no, that's terrible. Like, but Adam's okay. At least we have Adam.
So what?
Oh,
I have something to tell you.
And Matt and I was like, oh, you shouldn't find out this way. But and then his reaction, like, oh my, you failed in your main mission to protect Prince, and you're fired. Get out. Just so like, wow.
But then Tila has the breakdown. And I'm like, everyone has fucking lied to me.
Right.
Kept this for me. I'm fucking done with all of you. And that's what I kind of liked about this, because it feels like the lowest lane of the situation. Like, she's the last to know.
Right.
He-Man is Prince Adam and like Superman is a Clark Kent. So I appreciate that. But the fallout, yeah, I get that. I can get why Tila will be upset.
But that's the main crux of why people didn't like it. That they actually took this step of, you had the same old back and forth over and over and over again.
We've seen this so many times.
Let's do something different. Let's shake it up. And again, we'll do another. I'm sure there'll be another Master Universe series in the next few years.
Right.
It comes around every 5 or 6 years, regularly. So this is just the latest version.
Right. Just like there's always like another version of Transformers or another animated Spider-Man series. Like, enough.
Right, but this one got my attention.
Right.
Because of good writing, consequences, and just misfits put together.
Right.
I never would imagine the team that comes together in these 5 episodes.
Right.
I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then the reasons they're together, I'm like, wow, it's just like the Fellowship of the Ring. Okay.
And I think that's the benefit of seeing that all these minor characters, all the background characters come up to play.
And they get backstory.
Yes.
Vital backstory that you never knew just before they died. Just amazing.
Well, the next big storyline, or the one that I think like won me over, was that Orko, not one of my favorite characters. It's always a bumbling character.
No, he's the Snarf, he's the Uni, he's the Slimer.
He's the Jar Jar Binks of the universe. You're always going to have that one character that just fucks up everything, but you can't get mad at him because he's not really doing this intentionally. It's just, that's how he is. But he says this one line about how his real name is called Oracle, and that how he was growing up as a baby, he couldn't pronounce Oracle, but it came out Orko. And that kind of like,
Hodor. Oh my God, I understand now. That's so sad. Oh my God, he's died. That's so sad. Yeah, I get it.
But in keeping, something does happen to Orko, but Orko gets a redemption because he finally gets his shit together and makes magic happen the way it's supposed to happen. And he's willing. He's like, no, I got this. You guys go. And he's able to hold off the enemy. And I'm just like,
There were so many messed up moments in this. I'm like, oh my God, you really did that. Moss Man there briefly, passes away, but then back in spiritual form later.
Yeah.
But still freaking amazing. Roboto, whatever.
yeah.
I am the exact copy of Man-at-Arms who can't go with you because he's been dishonored and disgraced, but he'll go protect Castle Palace Attorney or whatever, fine. But I can wield the sword, and yet at my moment of death, I'm like, I am afraid. And then that philosophical moment about no, it's a good thing. Like, we're sorry. Like, no, it's a good thing. It means you succeeded.
Right.
It means I'm human. It means I can feel. And it means...
I'm like,
just
fuck.
keep
And
getting-
just that one moment just like broke my heart. It was just like, how are you doing this in such a short amount of time to win me over like this?
But it was funny. It was fun and it was unexpected. And it was so short. I couldn't believe I was getting so much out of like 24 minutes of entertainment.
right. Exactly.
And just a few lines of dialogue that are a little cheesy, a little campy, a little melodramatic, but you know these characters, you've been following them for years, therefore you just swallow everything they say to me, like, okay, all right, I didn't know that about you.
Right.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Oh my God. And then it just, because you know these characters.
Right. And I love
Ish.
the dynamic, which I didn't think about this with Tila and Evil Lyn, is that they had men that were kind of standing in their way. Skeletor for Evil Lyn and He-Man for Tila. And I'm like, without them there, they become the principal players to take.
Right. It made sense to me.
And I'm like, yeah, that I would never have thought about that until they were put together on the screen. I'm like, wow.
And
that dynamic works.
the thing is, I think the show is self-aware, which I like about it. Like there's like, oh, the second episode, like, oh no, we have this task to do. I'm an old woman. Will you take on this class? I'm like, clearly that's Evil Lyn. You know, and the funny thing was, they go, okay, we'll get your thing. I'm like, no. Okay, but it's a children's show. I'll forgive it. But then at the end, they're like, okay, so we got your stupid thing. Hey, Evil Lyn, what do you need this? And I was like, thank you. Self-aware.
She knows.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So really just,
Yeah.
yeah, it was I think it was a tongue-in-cheek
Yeah.
show, cutting edge, crisp, humorous. There's that weird line that you found in the script.
Right.
you were just-
That Mark Bernardin had talked about with Kevin Smith is like, I can't believe that line even got through. It's like a moment in which He-Man and Tila were underwater with mermen.
Makes no sense at all.
And I was like, and so Skeletor is on top of on deck. It's like, I was thinking about painting this ship or a certain color granite or whatever. I'm like, it's like
then they get washed over the side. It's just-
but it's like on a border of, I can save you 50% on car insurance, suckers. That kind of line, that kind of cheesiness. But it's like, I love that. Now, is there negative stuff that I liked or didn't like, which is definitely the voice of Skeletor? I think Mark Hamill played too much.
he's playing the Joker.
The Joker,
And
right.
even the lines of dialogue could have been lifted from the Batman animated series, or
Right.
more aptly Harley Quinn at this point.
Right. So that was the only negative thing that I could say about this.
And it threw you out of it for a moment, but then you spun back in.
Right, because everything else works so well, like I can forgive this. That's minor compared to the big scheme of what they were doing. That whole direction worked for me. And then they find Prince Adam again. He's willing to give up the eternity he has of a peaceful life.
Right, and there's interesting thing about that is he came back in his mortal form.
Right.
He chose not to take on his He-Man form. The funny thing for me about this was like, oh my God, gods and characters I vaguely knew about that I'd seen on the shelves or vaguely knew about while toy collecting for the past 30 years or so. I saw them all. They were there. Snake Mountain was in the background. All these Easter eggs. I mean, even Wonder Bread He-Man was there, who was we're not sure about his existence in figure form. He was there in the lovely Masters of the Universe Valhalla. But I like the way that he came back as normal him. That's strange.
Right. and the fact that there's a Grayskull character, which I had no idea that that's what the castle was referring to. And I'm like, really?
There's a deep
Right.
mythos that you didn't know about that Filmation kind of tried to do but messed up.
So you really can't fault what the writers were going for when they can pull out such lore that I'm sure even fans who...
That's the thing. I really, after hearing about the whole backlash and what's going on, I mean, I get it. It's got 5 more episodes that drop in August. It doesn't matter. This is not even real important news.
Right.
It's just, hey, Kevin Smith, a celebrity, said something and is giving flack. Mm-hmm. And so it gets interest. It's going to get interest.
Right.
It's a slow news weekend, Snake Eyes and Old Open. No one really cares. It didn't do well. What's going on the internet? This is.
Right. So if it's not Kathleen Kennedy this week, it'll be someone else next week, or whatever the thing is that people
I don't know. He's got a lot of fire in him. He's firing back, which is
the thing that I'm glad that he does, because he understands that these guys have no idea what they're talking about. They don't have inside knowledge. Like, they worked on the show and then they trashed the show. They didn't. They're just picking up rumors and guesses of what they think that, based on what they saw in the initial artwork or the programs, that's what that is.
Right. And then they do their internet searching.
Right. And then that's how they kind of get their ratings, by just shitting on everything.
I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I mean, it's certainly social media at its best. You can within moments, within an hour, the whole world can know that, oh no, Kevin Smith did something or whatever.
Right.
And people can fire their electronic missiles back and forth quicker than snot. So that's great. But I don't know. Does it matter? Because it's getting the show press, but is it good press? Who cares? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, he said that Netflix really didn't care about what these fans thought about.
Right. It's season 1. It's a whole new start.
Right.
It revitalized the toy line. The weird thing about the toy line is that the origin stuff is already out there.
Yeah.
So now we're just adding another layer of Revelations action figure on top of the Origins figures.
Yeah. And there's going to be another He-Man series, but that's a separate thing altogether. That's not connected, which I'm like...
It's too much.
But still, for fans to die on a hill for this is the exact same thing they've done with Captain Marvel, or they've done with Force Awakens. And we kind of talked about this too, is that we had issues with stuff they did in Star Wars, stuff they did in Star Trek, that we're passionate about. He-Man is something that we know of, but it's not necessarily strong enough in our wheelhouse that we're willing to go and die on that hill.
But I think it's interesting that we're awake enough to realize, like, you know what? I normally would just not even care about this, but I stuck my forks in it, pulled it in, and looked at it like, this is really nice.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, for the first time ever I remember, it was 1986, I first started knowing about this toy line, this cartoon series. This is the first time since the early Filmation days of early masturbatory fantasy, whatever you want to call it, whatever, just, you're awakening in the world of sci-fi and fantasy. This is the first time that I've gone back to the Masters Universe and said, this is worth coming back to.
Right.
You have interesting stories. All right, give me the mythos again. Let me understand it. Right. And again, the thing for me, again, I don't think that the fans that are angry right now really understand what they're doing, because they're going back to the original tales that were from the mini comic books you didn't read because you were so concerned about the action figure.
Right.
But there was a real history there. They didn't quite get to go out, but it's out there now, and I'm like, they're trying to put it back together. Let them do it. Just this one time. There'll be a new cartoon in a year.
Right. And if you don't want to see it, don't worry about it. You still have all your He-Man shit before.
But will people get confused with the different styles of?
No.
It's possible. I'm sure there's an elderly aunt.
If you're
or
a
uncle
fan
out there.
of that, you would know the difference. Like, I know that Beast Wars is not my favorite Transformers series. There's that first generation Wave 1 of Transformers animated series I would gladly go back to, up to the point where we see the Destructicons and the what do you call the Grimlock?
The Dinobots.
Dinobots. Up to that point, I will go in up to that point. But after that, I don't care about anything else.
it's a big world. I think that's what we're talking about. It's a
Yeah.
big world. There's going to be lots of different variations of different franchises.
Right.
This is just one of them that's causing a lot of flack right now. I think that if you are a fan of Masters of the Universe or He-Man, He-Man's not, again, the star of it, but again, his universe. It's more of a, let's see what's going on this side of the franchise kind of
Right.
thing. And he'll be back, I'm sure.
Right.
But interesting.
It is. And again, I think all the bad press has, if anything, pushed the conversation forward for people to make up their own minds. Because I'm seeing a lot of people are like, they're actually quite surprised and pleased what they did. In 5 episodes, they've done a lot of heavy lifting. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do for the last 5 and how it's going to move forward. That's what I'm really happy for. Because again, I couldn't give a crap about how one He-Man, and back in the old days, how one He-Man episode had ended because next week's episode just started over again.
Right. Again, you're looking at think about a show like it's in syndication that's made 100 episodes. It doesn't matter where you cut into it.
Right.
It's not in order.
can watch it out of
any
order.
way you want. We
Right.
hit 100 episodes, and again, every day we go back to the original settings, and that's fine. But this is different. This is like, no, we killed out the 2 main characters in the first episode. It's dead, and this is what happens to the universe without He-Man or Skeletor.
Right.
And it's a struggling Dinotopia kind of thing. Dinotopia.
Dinotopia. Oh my god.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
The ABC miniseries way back in the way. Oh man.
Dystopia.
Okay.
Sorry, dystopia.
Not
dystopian
not
future.
Dystopia. That's all right.
Future, and there you are, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's like life finds a way.
Yeah. Although, like, having said that, when I look at the new breed of Star Trek shows, I don't particularly care for it as much as I do for the other stuff. But, there's nothing that I can do other than I don't have to watch that. I don't have to pay for it. There are no toys that's supporting it like the old line. I can still find those figures. If that's what I want to do, I got still my old shows to watch. I can live in that world where you have Star Trek Into Darkness still be part of the reboot with J.J. Abrams and still be fine with that. I could choose not to watch it. So if you're a fan of He-Man and you don't like this, even if you watched it, fine. You don't have to worry about this. It doesn't disdain the rest of the property, the rest of the franchise at all. This is a version, like even Thundercats had a moment in which I'm like, where the hell is Lion-O in this version? He's not even the beginning. You see a lot of other characters, but no Lion-O. I'm like, I know people got upset about that with Thundercats, but it's like the exact same reason.
It's fine. It's just this is a smaller chapter in a larger story.
Right.
You can skip over it if you want. It's like Toy Story 4.
You don't need it. You don't need it. You go just end at number 3. That's it.
But you don't have to look at this if you want to. Parallel universe.
Right.
Take it as a multiverse. Doesn't have to expect your toys or whatever. It's just a different take.
Right.
But it's hard because is it canon?
I believe they're treating it as canon.
Right, but it's a strange bit. But it doesn't matter. Time and history will heal this wound.
Right.
In a year, it'll be something that's barely a blip on your radar. In 3 years, you won't even remember it.
Right. And here's another thing I want to toss out. If fans were upset with this, I don't remember hearing fans being upset by the goddamn movie that came out with Dolph Lundgren. That was a disaster. I love Franklin Jenna for being Skeletor and able to do that. I love Meg Foster because of her eyes as Evil Lynn. Mm-hmm. Everything else, I could just forget about that.
Courtney Cox, Tom Paris.
Especially Tom Paris. I can forget those two. But, they tried to do what they could. On a limited budget, I think it was Canon and
Yes,
Globus.
fine, whatever. It's not the greatest.
Right. So
they didn't make the Fantastic Four movie and put that out, thank God. But they got this.
Yeah. But it didn't ruin the franchise. It still moved forward.
No,
so
right.
Don't worry about this. Move the fuck on. Just like I have to tell myself, move the fuck on from Star Trek. Watch your older shit. Don't worry about this. That's all we have to say. As fans, from one fans to another, stop fucking trashing hate this because you're making it worse for the product itself. If you don't want it to be promoted, by you talking about how much you hate this, generates even more interest. And that's what I think what's going to happen in the end.
Yeah, but people are legitimately angry about this, though. It's held
Right.
close to them like a passion, which we have passions about Star Trek and Star Wars.
Right.
They're close to us. Again, this was just a strange, just franchise on the periphery that we're vaguely aware of.
I know. And the same thing like with Game of Thrones. You know, we know enough of the series, but we haven't read the books. So, you know, there's a disconnect between what you had seen on the TV, and then, of course, the last book is still not written yet. So, you know, a lot of shit could still happen. And there's another prequel series coming out. So I'm like, there's some things we're going to love, and there's some things we're going to not like.
Yeah.
And that's all. So, and I think we had enough on this.
Okay.
That we beat this enough to death. So we're going to do a couple more podcasts tonight because we're kind of maximizing our time together as we finished up while eating dumplings. So
I taught you to make dumplings. And
yes, which I really
Pretty
appreciated that now new skill set.
I got a hat.
You got a dumpling hat. So, all right. So on that note, thank you, Mr. Gene, for being with me.
Pleasure. Talk to you in a few minutes, or for you guys, no time
Whenever.
at all.
Right, exactly. Right. So remember, you can always email me at monsterscifishow@gmail.com. You can follow me on the various social networks. So thank you for listening to us on the Monster Sci-Fi Show. It's sci-fi
from a certain point of view.
Wow, Gene, you're amazing.
I remembered it this time because I'm not that drunk.
Bye.
Welcome to Dr. Geek's Laboratory.
Hello everyone, Dr. Geek here with a shout out to all the scientists who worked tirelessly to bring a COVID-19 vaccine into reality. Let's face it, creating something of this magnitude is a miracle worthy of Dr. McCoy himself. And now, Dr. Geek needs you to do your part. Remember, each shot is one small step back to normal, one giant leap to putting the pandemic behind us. We can do this. For more information, visit vaccines.gov to find your nearest provider.
There are a lot of great podcasts that review Doctor Who episodes in order. The Earth Station Who podcast is not one of them. Just like the Doctor, we never know where or when we'll end up, but we'll have a lot of fun talking about it. From classic Who to new series and big finish, join the Earth Station Who crew wherever fine podcasts are found. Earth Station Who is a founding member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.